This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am delighted to have you. Those of you on the phones, be patient with me. I'm going to try to get to you in this segment, but I got to begin with what I wrote this morning. The American Press Corps has a number of problems, and they're all really related to two things: incredible arrogance and incredible partisanship. I'm concerned. So I called the American Press Corps prostitutes for the Democrats this morning, and I've had a little bit of reservation about doing that. I'm a little bit concerned with calling the press prostitutes for the Democratic Party, because it really does a disservice to prostitutes who work hard for their money, and most members of the press are deeply lazy and do it for free. So I mean, the whorishness, I guess there's an issue there. Not a great fan of the American Press Corps these days. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, went to New York City and had a press conference outside the Trump trial. And he criticized the trial and the partisanship, and essentially said that the judge is serving as a proxy for Joe Biden's agenda and the like. And oh my goodness gracious, he crossed a line. It was a remarkable visit, and he crossed a line. He brought a level of partisanship to the American judicial system that no one has ever brought before. No, not Nancy Pelosi calling Amy Coney Barrett illegitimate Supreme Court justice. Not Chuck Schumer saying the Supreme Court will reap the whirlwind. Not the Democrats in an orchestrated campaign to undermine the credibility of the Supreme Court. Not the Democrats whose rhetoric inspired a man to attempt the assassination of Brett Kavanaugh. No, heaven forbid, not Merrick Garland, who refused to enforce an American law prohibiting protests outside federal judges' homes. Nope, none of that. That wasn't a line cross. That wasn't remarkable. That wasn't breaking precedent. That wasn't hyper-weaponizing the partisanship of American rhetoric against the judiciary. No. Mike Johnson daring to defend Donald Trump for the cameras. That's the bridge too far, according to the American press. And by the way, the talking points clearly went out on this. Let me just read you. In fact, if you got my morning piece, if you had texted data to 33777 and you clicked, I did it by design. If you clicked on each of the words, the talking points clearly went out and you guys ran them. Here is, let's see, you've got the Independent. Mike Johnson acts as proxy for Trump as he bashes judge's daughter. Rolling Stone, Trump's GOP surrogates take turns bashing judge's daughter. Political, Mike Johnson comes to Trump's defense. Bloomberg, Trump's newest loyalty test, attending his criminal trial. On it went. Attacking Mike Johnson and other Republicans for defending Donald Trump. It was a remarkable precedent-setting, bridge-burning, act-defying justice. It was clearly coordinated. To have all those Republicans show up and all be attacked in the same way, to attack them for defending Trump, to attack them to avoid grappling with the issues of the case. In fact, it's a legitimate issue. The judge's daughter works for a firm that gets Democrats elected. He clearly is a partisan judge with a partisan kid. She makes millions of dollars doing online fundraising for Democrats, according to Mike Johnson. They're using the trial as a hook. It's so corrupt. Everybody knows it. He's not wrong. And yet the American Press Corps decided they needed to attack him. They didn't want to deal with the issue. They didn't deal with the conflict of interest. They didn't want to deal with any of that. They just decided to attack the Speaker of the House for telling the truth. But it's not just that. You know what it reminds me of is what they did the other day to Donald Trump himself. Donald Trump talked about Hannibal Lecter. Now, I'm going to play for you the full clip here because you need the full clip.
The biggest thing we have is we have millions of people here that are criminals. They're criminals. Think of it. Venezuela just announced, and they had a new number, 67, now it's 72%. 72%, they're down in crime because they took their gangs, their gang members, they took a lot of their criminals, and they moved them into the United States of America. Jail populations all over the world are way down, and these fools back there, the press, the fake news, they don't want to report it. You know why they're down? Because they're sending people in their jails into the United States, from Africa, from Asia, from all over the world. They're emptying out their jails into the United States. They're emptying out their mental institutions into the United States, our beautiful country. And now the prison populations all over the world are down. They don't want to report that. The mental institution population is down because they're taking people from insane asylums and from mental institution. You know what the difference is, right? An insane asylum is a mental institution on steroids. Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter, congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country, and they're coming in totally unchecked, totally unvetted, and we can't let this happen. They're destroying our country, and we're sitting back, and we better damn well win this election, because if we don't, our country is going to be doomed.
That was Donald Trump the other day in New Jersey. And he mentions Hannibal Lecter. He's clearly having a little bit of a laugh about Lecter. And, you know, the last line in the movie, he's having an old friend for dinner. It was kind of a funny line after a very intense scene in the movie, if you ever saw the movie. Philip did not see the movie. And then what happened? Seth Meyers, he does, Trump endorses Scarface, Hannibal Lecter, and hot dogs on his show. WGN-TV, Trump calls Hannibal Lecter wonderful man. Stephen Colbert attacks Donald Trump for praising Hannibal Lecter. The Biden-Harris campaign pushes out a clip from CNN where they say it's really crazy that Trump praised Hannibal Lecter. Ann Applebaum of the Washington Post. Is she still with the Washington Post? No, she's now the Atlantic. At what other moment in American history could a presidential campaign praise a fictional serial killer and inspire almost no reaction? The Guardian, Trump praises fictional serial killer Hannibal Lecter. Rolling Stone, Trump says he'd deport anti-American protesters in bizarre rally speech praising late great fictional serial killer Hannibal Lecter. Trump, Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man, according to The Hill. KRON4 News, Trump, Hannibal Lecter, wonderful man. Forbes magazine, Trump calls fictional Hannibal Lecter a wonderful man at rare campaign stop. Newsweek, Donald Trump suffers gaffe-heavy weekend, saying he liked fictional cannibal Hannibal Lecter. The New York Magazine, praising the late, great Hannibal Lecter is peak Trump lunacy. Y'all, coordinated talking points by the Biden administration and the prostitutes of the press rush forward, seize it, and run with it, taking it completely out of context. It's simply not true. He was using Hannibal Lecter clearly as an example of the most insane criminals being let into this country. If anything, if you wanted to make it accurate, you would say Donald Trump tries to scare Americans that the immigrants into this country are cannibals. The media that gave Joe Biden a pass for saying his uncle was eaten by cannibals now want to lie about Donald Trump and cannibals. By the way, as an aside, how crazy is it this campaign season? We're talking about cannibals. But it's coordinated press hit job, which goes back to my last caller's point as well. You know, the press now has a long runway to prepare a hit job against Trump in these debates. And it's going to give Trump even more credibility with the American people when they try it, and he deflects it. And Joe Biden, he's just going to come across as another old, dementia old man. The press can only help so much. All right, to the phones, 877-973-7425. Dave, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Good to be on with you again. Enjoyed seeing you at WDBO at Wekiva Island.
Thank you very much. Glad you were there.
Yes, indeed. Hey, I was thinking about the first presidential debate of 2020 where Trump went on the attack. We actually had a young lady, a friend of ours over who was non-political, watching the debate. And quite frankly, she was horrified at the level of attack that Trump launched against Biden, trying to throw him off his game. And I basically said, we're in trouble with the women of America because they won't stand for this. He's going to lose the women vote. So that to say, Trump better, watch his P's and Q's and not try to throw Biden off his game like he did in 2020 in that first debate.
Although keep in mind, he lost women generally, but he won married women.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, that is the pattern for the Republicans these days. They tend to lose the women, but, yeah, you can only lose them by so much. If they all turn against you, you're right. He does have to be careful, although I think the Democrats are counting on that, trying to play that up in hope that he hurts them. Jonathan, you're up next. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, Eric. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
You know how we had the Trump-Russia collusion thing that everybody was all up in arms about, and then we all turned out to be not right? What has happened to the Biden is in bed with China with taking foreign influence? It's like we've had 2 months of nothing from Jim Jordan, and it's just like the whole news cycle on it has dried up.
Yeah, look, I think the GOP bit off more than they could chew with this particular impeachment. They should have gone after Biden for withholding the weapons to Israel, but that's too new. It never went anywhere. And even behind the scenes, cynically, a lot of Republicans have been saying, we thought there was a there, and there's not. Now, they're not going to very much say that publicly. They really have reeled in a lot of people on this. They fundraised off of it, but the whole thing has fallen apart. It just hasn't been a very serious effort on the GOP's part. It's been kind of embarrassing to watch, frankly. There were plenty of other things they could have gone after Biden for instead of that. Craig, you're up next. Welcome to the show.
And how are you today, sir?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, Hey, one of the things that I like about you is that you're able to take two totally unrelated or seemingly unrelated stories and you weave them together. And I think right now there are two stories out there, one of which we've been talking about today, the debate's coming up in June and then again in September. And the other one, though, is the Hunter Biden case or cases that are going to be going to court in June. And I was reading an article this morning about how Biden is just totally obsessed with his son and the problems that his son has and this type of thing. And that he worries about him daily. And I'm thinking that that's going to have a huge effect on him at the time that he goes into this first debate. while his son potentially is in court in one
that's
or
a great
two
point.
different cases.
That is a great point. And for those who don't know what Craig's talking about here, here's the headline from Politico. Biden aides worry about psychological torment as Hunter heads for trial. Yeah, he could be seriously worried about this and also the political ramifications of pardoning his son. Okay, all right. I'm concocting my own crazy conspiracy theory. Here's my conspiracy theory now. Craig, it's your fault. You know I'm not into conspiracy theories. Here's my conspiracy theory. He's timing the debate for the Hunter Biden trial so that when Hunter goes to prison, Biden can then blame the debate and say, hey, I'm going to be a one-term guy, and then pardon his son immediately. And who can hold him accountable because he's walking off the stage. That's what this is all about. He's going to pardon Hunter and say, I'm a one-term guy, so you people can't hold me accountable for doing that. There's my conspiracy theory.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. The holidays are here, and you know what that means. It's time to get your friends and family the gifts they deserve. Take the stress out of shopping with Amazon's great deals and low prices on a huge range of items from toys to tech and much more. Whoever you're gifting for, Amazon has great prices on everything you need this holiday season. Shop Amazon for all your gifting needs.
Greetings, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Be patient with me if you're on the phones. I don't have a lot of time here. Jim Rutenberg, Michael Grinbaum at the New York Times have a piece. The headline is How MSNBC's Leftward Tilt Delivers Ratings and Complications. MSNBC placed a big bet on becoming comfort TV for liberals, then it doubled down. Time slots on the cable network, once devoted to news programming, are now occupied by Trump-bashing opinion hosts. The moves have been a hit with viewers. MSNBC has leapfrogged past its erstwhile rival CNN in the ratings and has seen viewership rise over the past year, securing second place behind Fox News. But MSNBC's success has had unintended consequences for NBC, an original Big Three broadcaster that still strives for mass appeal. NBC's traditional political journalists have cycled between rancor and resignation that the cable network's partisanship will color perceptions of their straight news reporting, which, by the way, MSNBC has polluted NBC with its reporter pool. There are tensions. There are tensions with Comcast as well. I just want to point out again, in the last decade, MSNBC has inspired two mass political assassination attempts, and clearly Comcast has made a choice to be fine with that, the parent company of MSNBC, and it's clear from reading this story at the New York Times that MSNBC did it for ratings. They should be held accountable for that. Now, in addition to harassing conservatives around the country, which is something MSNBC does, and even at CNBC, they've done this follow the money routine where they harass corporations and others for giving to conservatives. Banks have come under fire. Old Glory Bank is one that stands up to them because it was funded and founded by conservatives for conservatives. And I got a bank account there a year ago. They're highly innovative, and they're not going to cancel your account because of who you are. Bank of America and USAA it is USA. They've been accused of canceling bank accounts of conservatives lately. Old Glory Bank is never going to cancel your bank because of who you do business with or who you are. And they're highly innovative, and they have no fee checking and savings accounts. You can go to oldglorybank.com in 8 minutes or less. It's not going to take you that long. You can get a bank account. You can get loans from them. You can do real banking with them. They have an incredibly innovative online bill pay system and an app where you could even deposit cash into your account remotely, even though they're an online bank. My old online bank didn't do that. Oldglorybank.com. Member FDIC. Equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. Greetings. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program, let's go to the folds here. Steve in Wilmington, Ohio. Welcome. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Great.
Just quick question. I got a lot of questions, but I know there's not enough time for that. One in particular, I'm kind of, you know how most people kind of go on leaning either Biden or Trump. I had some people and some family members that always was Trump, never Biden, but now they're thinking of voting for Kennedy. And I told him, I said, I don't think he's much better than Biden. I just couldn't recall, all the stuff that I've heard from you and stuff. I'm trying to figure out what can I let them know that they're not seeing or.
Okay. This is such a great question. Follow along with me here. And I get this a lot. What about Robert Kennedy? First of all, I don't understand people who think he's a good candidate at all. But let me put it to you this way. Robert Kennedy is for abortion until the moment of birth. He is for gun control and gun confiscation. Robert Kennedy has a more radical environmentalist agenda than Joe Biden does. Robert Kennedy is actually bad on the issue of China. Robert Kennedy wants massive tax increases in the country. Robert Kennedy is a diehard, dyed-in-the-wool Kennedy progressive leftist who's out of touch with the middle class and believes that vaccines are harmful. He's an anti-science, anti-free market economics, anti-American Kennedy, born with a silver spoon in his mouth, who's lived in a bubble for so long he doesn't know reality or the plight of the working class and only knows how to do an impression of them. That's just the truth. So, I mean, God bless your friends who are thinking, I'm so disgusted with either one of these guys, I want to vote for third party. But tell them, I mean, make sure they understand he is more to the left of Joe Biden on the Green New Deal. He's more to the left of Joe Biden on guns. He's more to the left of Joe Biden on taxes.
I tried to say that, and they didn't believe me. They said, no way. I'm like, I don't know what you've heard or what you've heard it. I said,
right.
You may like
That's the craziest thing.
I don't.
Yeah, remember, it is low information voters who go vote. No disrespect to your friends, but
right.
I mean, at this point, you can just take them Robert Kennedy's words. He gave an interview the other day about he's abortion on demand until birth. And he said in the past, he came out and said he supported the Second Amendment, and then the very next breath said, but we need gun confiscations and gun buybacks in the country.
I try to tell them, and everyone's like, I don't know where you're. I've said, it sounds like you're just listening. I'm like, you're not really looking really deep and watching speeches and stuff and what they actually literally say. I said, I don't think you're doing the research deep enough. I said, I'm not the type that remember things and can back what I'm saying to them up. It's my problem. But I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Do I just tell them, or they look in the wrong areas?
I would, and you can, if you want to Google for him and send them the links. Just the other day, he gave his abortion answer. He gave his gun control answer a couple of months ago, and he's given his tax answer.
One of those.
Yeah, and then he's written a book on his environmental agenda, and it is super far left. And
that's what I understand. They go to church. They just had twins. They got 4 kids. They're all about what we are all about, but yet I'm like, I don't understand why you don't see this. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're not as paying attention as they probably think they are. And also, you got 4 kids. You're a little distracted. What it ultimately is they're not happy with the system as it works. And so why do you want to vote for the heir of a dynasty that made America worse, thinking that that'll make it better? I mean, the entire.
What I understand is whether we don't love everything about Trump. It's not that. It's just look what he's done. We were okay. I was doing better financially, not now because of Biden. Everything was going okay. I was like, man, it's almost like, and I was kind of young. I love Reagan, but I was kind of too young to really understand. And
right.
And I'm like, I feel like it's kind of like that from what I remember. But now. How can you just not see the difference and want to go back to Trump's era? It's just weird. 4 more years of them. Get over it. Get over 4 years.
4 more. We can't afford 4 more years of Joe Biden. The bottom line.
We can handle 4 years of Trump.
Yeah, Steve. Look, the bottom line is that Robert Kennedy's campaign motto could be "Let's drive the whole country into Chappaquiddick." That's kind of where we're headed here. If we put a Kennedy in charge. Now, they'd have to Google Chappaquiddick. But look, I got to let you go there. But yeah, look, I get your frustration. I hear it in your voice that these are seemingly smart people who they're churched and they're concerned and they're plugged in, and yet they want to go with Robert Kennedy. And what that tells me is your friends are so dissatisfied with the system, they're ready to pull the burn it all down option. and they really don't care what they get. I'm not making these positions up about Robert Kennedy. He is to the left of Joe Biden on the Green New Deal. He is that's how he came to fame. He's a massive left-wing environmentalist. Just last week, he believed that women had a right to abortion up until the moment of birth. He has for gun control and gun confiscation and gun buyback programs. This is who he is. These are the things he says. You don't have to take my word for it. You guys can Google it. It is. We're in this brave new world now where everybody has their own facts, and none of them are facts. They're just strongly held opinions that they've decided are facts. And when you confront them with the facts, they're like, well, I don't believe that. It's not me. It's his own words. It's just kind of funny that this is where we are as a society these days. Who cares about the facts when you can vote your feelings? And that's what people are doing. It reminds me, that this ongoing commentary over my monologue a couple weeks ago in defense of the three-legged stool of the Republican Party. You got these guys now on the right who they don't really stand for anything other than the acquisition of power. And essentially they're admitting that the left has already won, or at least is controlling them. Because conservatism has always been about eschewing power, giving the power back to the people, spreading the power out so it can't be used. And these guys are like, nope, conservatism hadn't conserved anything, so we want the power. In other words, you've bought into Marxist ideology. This needs to be said, and I try not to pick fights with people. Don't want to pick fights with people. There is this idea on the right now that we might as well control government and use government for our ends and our purposes because that's what the left does. And conservatism hasn't conserved, therefore let's get power and use it. That's Marxist ideology. Marxism, the whole premise of Marxism is to see the world in terms of power dynamics. It's not a coincidence that so many of the people on the right who've decided to reject conservatism are in fact are embracing Marxism. They gussy it up, they say it's populist or whatever, but it's just, trans conservatism. It's progressives identifying as conservatives. It is right-wing populists who don't actually have a governing philosophical core. And what's happened is they've seen the Republican Party line. And I don't know that many of them are willing to even acknowledge this or be honest about it. But they see the Republican coalition moving towards working class Americans, and they've decided the principles they long touted won't build a power coalition with these people. So we got to abandon our principles in order to acquire power. That's Marxist postmodern ideology right there. It's the same thing that the left does. The left sees the entire world in terms of power dynamics and what an intersectional class of victims. And there are those on the right now who've abandoned conservatism who do the same damn thing. Except that the class of victims is upside down now. So where the left sees the oppressed as the non-white, non-heterosexual, non-male voices, on the right, they see the oppressed as the white, male, Christian. But everything is still an intersectional bandwidth for the right and the left. And it's all just strains of Marxism. I never conceived of the fact that we would be in this country in the 21st century fighting over who's the better Marxist, the left or the right. But that's where it is. The cultural fights that the right insists that we must fight at the expense of everything else, that is part of this cultural Marxist shift where we've got to control power. I heard some Christian nationalist pastor the other day, I played the audio, say that we essentially do need a Caesar. We're post-constitutional in this country. We need a Caesar to hold power, and maybe his son won't inherit the power, but he'll be able to put everything right back for us. That's what Karl Marx and Lenin and Stalin all decided they were going to do as well. It is a postmodern Marxist philosophy that has invaded the right and polluted the minds of the hyper online. And it's not a coincidence that most of the people who espouse this stuff spend their whole life on social media and the internet and in chat room bubbles and the like. They're not actually out of the real world where people really actually care about the economy and people really actually care about their local community and people really aren't at each other's throats in local communities over politics. Life is too complicated, too busy, and people have families. It's the hyper-online set that have embraced this cultural, political Marxist philosophy on the right and the left. Again, this is very important for you to understand. If you see the entire world in terms of power dynamics and who has power, who controls power, who's going to get power, as opposed to I have these ideas and I wish to get elected to advance these ideas, and these ideas are timeless. If you're just about acquiring power for the sake of power to keep the other side from having power, you're just as much a Marxist as the other side. One Bolshevik versus another. I would rather advance good ideas, ideas that are timeless. And frankly, the ideas that we on the right should be embracing are ideas related to giving up the power and getting rid of the power, to melt the ring of power. J.R.R. Tolkien, all these guys love J.R.R. Tolkien, and they kind of miss the point of you want to throw the ring of power away into the volcano and destroy it so that no one can have that power again. We should be working to disembowel the federal government, to gut the federal government instead of using it for our purposes. And then they can't use it either. And when it comes to these companies, the free market is working. Look at all the people who boycotted Bud Light. Target has decided to rein in its pride displays in stores across the country. Why? Because of the free market. People saying, I'm not going to shop there. In an arm's length transaction, the free market continues to work for our side. And yet you got these Marxist power dynamics on the right who've decided, no, we just need power and we're going to impose our will because that's what the left does. And the left uses government so much more effectively. And now the left has co-opted corporations and we're going to use the government to come after them. They're going to come after you when they give up power, when they take power back, because there's no such thing as a permanent political majority in the country. So the best way to do it is to gut the power, disembowel Washington, D.C., return the power to the people in the states, and put your fate in the hands of the people who so many of you have decided you don't trust any more than the left trusts them because you're all a bunch of postmodern Marxists and you're not brave enough to admit that you've embraced Marxist left-wing ideology just like the left. Trans-conservatism is what it's become. Progressives identified as conservatives have just had enough of this nonsense. Y'all, we know the tried and the true that work. And it doesn't just work when the Soviets are around. It works to fight the Marxists here at home as well. This abandoning timeless principles because, oh my God, the Republican coalition is different. That just means you're putting politics ahead of policy. I would rather put policy ahead of politics because policy at the end of the day is going to be what saves this country, not politicians acquiring power, because when they acquire power, just like Gollum, they want to keep the ring. Now, I'm going to move on. Jim, what am I supposed to do? You said something to me. Eden Pure, that's right. Yeah, I guess I need to clean up the air on this stuff. EdenPureDeals.com is the website. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. If you go to EdenPureDeals.com and you put in the discount code ERIC3, you get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. They clean up the air. Now, they're an air purifier, so they get rid of the dust and the pollen, and they're filterless. You don't have to buy a subscription. You could just wipe out the electrostatic plates. But they also generate ozone and wipe out odors. So they wipe out smoke odors, litter box odors, pet odors, frying odors, cooking odors, musty odors. I've used them to wipe out odors in the kitchen when I fry shrimp. My wife despises fishy odors. Everybody does. And the Eden Pure Thunderstorm wipes out the odors. I use it in my travel bag, carry it in my travel bag. So at hotels, if someone spoke to the hotel room or in a rental car, because you can plug it in with a USB cord, wipes out odors. It just works. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. You get 3 of them. You save $200. You get 1 for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV, wherever you need them. Well priced. Save $200. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Tom, I want to take your call. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Great, Eric. And thanks for your earlier commentary on the Marxists on the right and the left. One quick point, and then my main point, if I could. The only person that would be acceptable to replace one black female on the Democratic candidate to replace Biden would be another black female. So I'll leave it there. But the main point is I heard the commencement speech of Jerry Seinfeld at Duke, and it was amazing. And I wish all your listeners would listen to it, look it up. Found it on Gateway Pundit, but it's available on YouTube, I believe.
It's a great speech.
One of the things he said, Eric, was, "We are now ashamed of things for which we should be proud, and we are now proud of those things for which we should be ashamed."
Yes.
That was amazing.
A great speech. It really was. And, you know, I meant to play part of it the other day, and then I got distracted, and then I played part of Harrison Butker's yesterday. That's still causing all sorts of contentiousness out there, Tom. But, yeah, people really should listen to what Jerry Seinfeld said. It was a very reasonable take. And another reasonable take at a graduation commencement address is this one.
Right now, in the world outside this beautiful campus, troubled waters are slamming against some of our most fundamental principles. Support for freedom of speech is declining dangerously, especially where it should find broadest and widest acceptance. In a book called The Idea of the University, St. John Henry Newman saw the university as a place for reasoned debate. Today, very few colleges live up to that ideal. This place is one of the few that does, and you are very fortunate to have had that experience. Religious liberty is also threatened. When you venture out into the world, you may find yourself in a job or a community or a social setting where you will be pressured to endorse ideas you don't believe or to abandon core beliefs. It will be up to you to stand firm, and as Bishop Caggiano said last night, it will be up to you to speak out.
That's Sam Alito, Supreme Court Justice, with his commencement address. Good for him for saying that. He's absolutely right. Freedom of speech is under attack across this country. We got to stand up for it.